We have some tips for you for some financial success. Over to your sugar.
So today we've got a list from Forbes, 10 habits of self-made millionaires. So let's go through it.
Why do you think this list could be important for our listeners?
Yeah, it could be important because, habits and disciplines is important for, bringing out the result that we want. That's the key step that needs to be made. So once you can put these habits in place, then we can increase our likelihood of making it as a success.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we want the audience, you guys, to have as much value as possible. So hopefully you guys take something from this list. Hopefully we take something from the list as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go. Let's go through it.
Okay. So number 10 is pass on values to the next generation. Many millionaires are committed to teaching their children financial responsibility and instilling the values of hard work and frugality.
Interesting. I guess it doesn't necessarily have to be your children. If you don't have children already, it could be children in your family, or it could just be younger people in general. So I guess it's when you learn something, passing that on, which is actually a good way to know that you've actually learned something. Are you able to teach it to someone else? That's what I take from it. What about you?
For me, I think this is very key. I think I've heard, as we know, in schools, they don't really teach on financial literacy or financial
very true.
At all. So I think, as we know, it's absolutely our responsibility to be, as much as we can anyway, to teach that to the next generation, to give them a leg up so that they can start off on a better note. So I guess it's kind of like emphasizing that need for us to take the responsibility. So never mind, why doesn't schools teach it? Why don't we teach it? So, as we now know, and we've read books and so on, or as much as we do know, we can pass that on to help them out. So, Number 9 is, funny enough, financial literacy. Millionaires tend to be financially literate and are knowledgeable about investments, taxes, and personal finance.
I have actually heard that millionaires are the best at tax because they have to understand where their money's going. So they tend to know a lot of the tax rules. I have heard that. Whereas a lot of people, if you're not earning money outside of, let's say, a 9 to 5, you don't tend to think about tax too much because in the UK, you're taxed automatically through the payroll.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't really have to think about what the tax rules are. Whereas if you have a business, for example, or a contractor or freelancer, you have to understand what taxes you're going to pay because you most likely have to file your own taxes in the UK. Yeah, and it's quite interesting because I think if you want to be successful or wealthy or a millionaire, or all three, I guess, it would make sense to understand the field. If you want to be a basketball player, you need to practice, right? You need to understand the game.
That's real.
Yeah, so if you want
LeBron James, for example. Mm-hmm.
So for example, if you think of top athletes such as like LeBron James, I've heard a lot of commentators and fellow basketball players say that he understands the game of basketball so thoroughly well. Like he can read defenses, he can read offenses, he understands how to play the game like top to bottom, and that has helped him to be one of the best. And it's the same thing, you can't just sort of expect that money just sort of grows on trees. You have to sort of understand the financial landscape, I would say, and take time to dedicate to understanding it and to learning it. Like you said, especially as we don't learn it in school.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's always fascinating to hear when I hear about some of it's usually the very, very best pros. They do tend to be the ones that, really, go the extra mile to study film, to make sure that they're prepared for the game. So likewise, when it comes to finances, that's a good idea to do as well, isn't it? To do as much as we can. So what kind of have you got any examples of stuff that you've done to kind of increase your financial literacy? Any.
So I quite like listening to podcasts. I've read a few books, and then even shows such as Dragon's Den has been helpful. Although that's more sort of understanding about how businesses work, I think it's still been helpful to sort of understand some of the things you need to think about with regards to the finances of business. How about yourself?
So with me, I've read some books. So for example, the one everyone talks about, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, was super useful for understanding, sort of how the rich and the poor, sort of the different mentalities that they can have. Yeah, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad, I think is Richest Man in Babylon as well. there's loads of other ones as well. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but loads of other ones as well. And then also, like you said, like podcasts as well. So there's like, there's also even people like, who's the money saving expert guy?
Martin
Lewis. Yeah. He always has really, really good tips. He comes on TV all the time, and he always has really, really good tips on, how we can, save money better and how we can use money better and, maybe get the best out of your accounts and stuff like that. So he's also a very good person to listen to as well if you want to get some good ideas or get some tips on what you can do to, use your money better. So let's move on to the next one. So the next one, number 8, is networking and relationships. So building a network of supportive relationships and mentors can be crucial for career success and wealth building.
Okay. That sounds like a good idea. Well, if someone hasn't started this already, what would you advise them to do in order to build, obtain mentors and to expand their network?
For career success and well-being. Okay, so this is so career success and wealth building. So in terms of career success, I guess that could be finding people that are like that's kind of ahead of you, that are doing maybe what you want to do. So if that's like in the workplace, that could be, perhaps like a senior manager, perhaps like someone that's like done really well. You could ask them to be a mentor. So I did do that whilst I was in one of my previous roles. I did do that with one of the leaders, and I asked them to be my mentor. Just sent them an email asking them to be my mentor, and we talked about it, and we met up like weekly or monthly. You can do it. The frequency as to your can be suited to your tasting. But I found that really, really useful at the time, and it really, really helped me because they can give you they've got such a wealth of knowledge and advice. So they can be able to you can be able to learn some small tips that they've been learning over a long period of time, and that can really help you to to level up. I think you had a mentor as well, didn't you, in one of your roles? No.
Yeah, I found it really useful. Yeah, so it sounds like you're saying if you can find someone in your industry or just find someone that you admire, then that could be helpful in terms of a mentor. And I think Temi spoke about this, didn't she, when we interviewed her in our previous podcast episode. She spoke about the importance of having a network in her endeavors as a business owner, and how much her mentors have helped her and her network has helped her. So if you haven't listened to that podcast episode, make sure you check that out.
Yep, that's correct. So number 7 is avoiding financial drains. So millionaires tend to be cautious about financial drains, such as expensive divorces, supporting adult children, and overspending on housing. So avoiding financial drains. So I think maybe another way to put that would be kind of, I don't know, some of these examples are quite wild. They said overspending on housing. So maybe that one could be rephrased as, watching how you spend, or having watching how you spend. Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Yeah, just not overspending on things unnecessarily.
Yeah, the house one's an interesting one as well, because I think, especially in these times that we've had, we've seen like the interest rate is really skyrocketing. And we've maybe seen unfortunately, there's been some cases where some people, maybe when they were buying their house, they really stretched to buy it. So it probably was something that they couldn't really afford.
Right.
Or could just about afford. So they were actually literally stretching just to pay for it. And then the interest rates have skyrocketed, and now they're really struggling.
Right.
They were already stretching before, now they're really struggling. So unfortunately, this is some of the pitfalls that can happen to some people. So it's they do usually advise to take that into account when you're getting a mortgage. Actually, if it can, if the interest rates was to rise, would you be able to still afford it? So it's definitely something to think about there. Number 6, education and hard work. Education, hard work, and dedication to a career are key factors in accumulating wealth over time. What do you think? Do you agree with that? Or?
Yeah, I guess, yeah, definitely would agree. I think education doesn't have to be formal education. So I think it's the idea of constantly learning, trying to learn. Dedication, you've got to be dedicated, so that, really committed to whatever your endeavors are. And what was it? What was the third one?
And hard work. Yes,
and hard work. Yeah, you got to work hard. So I definitely agree with those 3.
Yeah, that one makes sense. I think a lot of people definitely talk about, that constant So it's not necessarily, master's courses and so on in the field, although that can be useful, but more so towards like maybe it might be somebody that has like that's a plumber, for example. So maybe it might be, okay, how can we improve our marketing skills?
Right.
Or how can we improve our negotiation skills? How can we improve our skills as a leader? Maybe we might have some, workers. So these kind of soft skills that we don't really think about too much, that can make the difference between somebody earning, maybe 10 times as much as another person who doesn't really that can't really speak very well on the phone, doesn't really market their business very well. Maybe they're not marketed at all. They don't have no social media. In fact, I've seen this play out somewhere in Camden Market. There's this market in Camden and they've got lots of like food stores and stuff. It's really, really nice. If you've not been there before, encourage you to check it out. Have you been there before? Camden Market? Okay. No. They've got lots of like street food. So they've got like food from like different nations, Italian, Korean, all sorts is there. Anyway, there's this particular store and the queue is, I think they do like some kind of like cheesy chips or something. I think it's called funky chips. And the queue goes round the corner and literally I've been 2 or 3 times and every time the queue has been people say on social media they've been queuing for like 2 hours to get to the place. Wow. Bearing in mind, most of the places you won't be queuing more than 5 minutes. Right. Most of the places you can just, it's quick in and out, you can get your stuff. Their queue is like 2 hours. Right. And a big reason for that is because their food has gone viral on TikTok and social media and so on. Mm-hmm. So their marketing game is on another, has been on another level. So they've, attracted that buzz. So people are willing to wait literally 2 hours plus, to try out this cheesy, these cheesy chips. Right. Which has really blown their mind on social media. So you can see the difference. Whereas the others are just, or most of them are just there. They don't know what's going on. They don't know that they're losing the battle online. Right. They think they're losing the battle on, maybe Funky Chips has decorated their shops more or something. They haven't. Like sometimes you see the difference in the queue. You see this one long line going, like I said, around the corner, and then beside it, the waiter, the person's just standing there. No one's there. It's, right. Incredible. So that's like, small, great example of how you can see, marketing game completely different, and you can see the results completely different. So yeah, just learning that bit of marketing can really make the difference. So yeah. So the 5th one is entrepreneurial spirit. Many millionaires are business owners or self-employed individuals who have taken control of their financial destiny through entrepreneurship. So I don't know if you're happy with that term, or maybe we can call it, so they've taken control of their financial destiny. So what we can call that is taking full responsibility for your business. Yeah. What do you think about that?
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like that sounds like a good way to phrase it.
Yeah. And I think it's really key as well, because when you're at work, I suppose if you're like a manager or a director and so on, usually they'll be tasked with ultimately the responsibility for like what's happening. But, with the business, it's important to know that, obviously to realize that, yeah, you'll be the person that takes ultimate responsibility. So it's important to, or if you're, I suppose you can even even in a career, you can still take personal responsibility for your work to make sure it's, high quality and so on before it gets to the manager. So I think wherever you are, it's always important to have that, and, it can, usually produces more quality work. Yeah.
Yeah. But I would say more generally, just in terms of understanding what your goals are and then being responsible for trying to achieve it. So for example, if you're working and you want to earn a particular salary, what can you do to increase your salary? And then that speaks to what you said about taking responsibility for your work. Looking online, there's some tips in terms of how to negotiate your pay, etc. But if you're finding that you're not getting what you're wanting to, you can move to a different job. You can take control in that regard. So not letting things happen to you, but trying different things to try to see if you can make things better, make a better situation for yourself, and working for yourself or building a career if you're an entrepreneur. Not just sort of saying, for example, using this example that you mentioned of the Camden Market, not just saying, oh, well, we hope customers will come, but saying, no, what else can we do to obtain customers? Okay, we can try to improve marketing. Can we try to increase our profits? What can we do? Okay, we can try to reduce our costs. So just taking full ownership. So just having that entrepreneurial mindset where you're just saying, I'm not letting this happen to me. I'm going to try to be a part of making things better. And it doesn't mean that you have to do everything yourself, but it just means that, because, you know, if someone else is better at marketing, you can work with that person to help you. If someone else is better at managing finances, you can work with an accountant. But it's just taking ownership, like you said, having that responsibility that you're not just going to let things happen, but you're actually going to try to make things happen yourself.
I love that. That's like speaks to our mindset, isn't it? That, you know, you're going to make it happen. You're not just going to, you know, have a victim mindset to say, oh, this is happening. It is what it is. Life, you know, that's life. You know, these nonsense sayings. That's life. No, it's not life. Make it happen. Life is what you make it. So make it happen. So yeah, I like that. That's definitely resonating there. Number 4, live below their means. Millionaires often spend less than they earn, leaving room for savings and investment. They avoid the trap of overextending themselves financially.
Yeah, sounds like a good idea. It's always wise to have enough left over at the end of the month. Yeah, it's definitely a good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, but I think that one is probably a bit, maybe that one depends, like how much you're actually making. So if you're making lots of money, maybe it's easier to spend well, it can be easier. I suppose you've got more disposable income to spend, so you can still ball out and still save money. Whereas if you want to say something?
No, you're right. No, you are right. But I think the whole idea is that, you know, if you can do a lot with a little, you can do a lot with a lot as well. It's or the phrase, if you look after a penny, the pounds will take care of themselves. Those sorts of sayings, I think it just speaks to, you know, even if you're not earning as much as a millionaire, as much as possible. I know what you're saying in terms of, you know, if the bills are quite high, etc. But are there things you can cut out? So it's just the whole idea of course, if you absolutely can't, then you can't. But if you can find ways to live below your means, if you can, so that you're saving a bit each month. I think there was a report that came out recently that said that many people in the UK don't have £1,000 in their savings account. I think they said many people don't even have £100. Many people have zero savings at all, which is an example of those people probably, you know, either they're not able to live beneath their means or they are overspending. So if you can find a way to keep track of what are your absolute must expenses, what are your nice to haves, what are your don't need at all, if you can kind of try to separate things like that, there may possibly be ways that you can sort of live below your means. And I think it's a good habit to have, because I was listening to something which was talking about how some people, let's say you're earning £1,000 a month and they're spending £500. If they start earning £1,500 a month, they now start spending £1,000. And it's that whole thing where, you know, maybe that's not the best example because £500 is not a lot of money. But if you if you scale it up to, you know, things that make more sense, if you see what I'm trying to say, it's that you make more, you spend more. But do you need to? If you were okay spending that 500, I mean, if you were struggling, of course, then raise it up. But if you were okay spending what you were spending before, you know, it can be very tempting to then just spend more. Oh, I've got extra money. So then, even though you're making more money, you're not actually getting the benefits in terms of the saving or being able to invest. And it's that savings and investing in particular, which can really help you to grow your money and help you to become a millionaire. So if you're just spending it all, there's not going to be as much money left over. So in that example I gave, it's a rubbish example because the money is too low. But when a person was earning 1,000,
you could say like 1,000, 4,000.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
But it's the same amount of money they have left over both times. You know, if we, you know, so that in that kind of example, if you're learning to live below your means, it can help you. So even when you're earning way more, you have so much more left over, you know, that you can put some away, put some into savings, put some into investing, put some into a holiday. You can then treat yourself, but you know that you're still saving a lot of money. That's just my thoughts anyway.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. Also, there's something that I've thought about before is this kind of thing of, even if you're a billionaire, let's say you're a billionaire now, you have 1 billion in the account, but you're spending, you spend 1.5 billion.
Right.
You're broke. That means that person's going to be broke. Yeah?
Right.
You know what I mean? So no matter how much money you have.
Yeah, that's such a good concept.
You know what I mean?
It blows your mind a little bit.
Yeah. So no matter how much money you have, if that spending is unrestricted, like is you know, is
you can still be broke.
The person can still be broke. And we've seen it happen, with rich people. Yeah.
And I was actually just going to say, that's actually a great example because you're saying you've seen it happen with rich people. Yeah. It happens with a lot of athletes.
Exactly, yeah.
Where, maybe from the age of 18 or 20 to 30, 35, they're earning so much money.
Yeah.
So
hundreds of millions of pounds. Yeah.
And before then, they were probably in their parents' home. So for their whole life earning, they've just been earning an exorbitant amount of money. So some of them never learn to live within their means or below their means. Sorry,
because they'll get it back next week.
They'll get it back next week. They can go splash out 15,000 on clothes, bags, champagne. Doesn't matter. Next week, another 50,000 is in the account. Yeah. So they start. That's a great example because yes, they're making so much money, but they're spending so much money. So what happens with a lot of them is within a few years, 2 years, sometimes 3 years of them leaving their sport, retiring, they're broke. They're filing for bankruptcy. And it just seems crazy. Like your contract was worth 40 million.
How's that possible?
How are you bankrupt? But they never learned to control their spending. The other example I wanted to give was people that win the lottery.
Yeah.
So they've never, they're just living, lavishly, and then they suddenly get a huge amount of money and they almost have this perception of, we're rich now, it's endless. And, unfortunately, a lot of people that win the lottery within a few years end up broke, bankrupt, back to square one, which is, if you think about it, they may have received an amount of money that they possibly would have never earned in their lifetime. So you would think that, no, they must be good for life. But unfortunately, if you don't have good financial management, like the tips we've gone through so far, some of them unfortunately end up losing the money.
I've got an article here. It is from Fox Business. And it says that 78% of professional athletes go broke after 3 years of retirement. 78.
When was this list created?
This was in 2022. So last year.
Oh, wow.
So, I was going to say last year. I guess 2 years ago.
Wow. So it's very recent list. I would have thought, because I remember hearing a lot of those stories when I was growing up. Yeah. So I would have thought that things would have changed by now. I
think it was as high as that. That sounds...
So was it 78%?
So that's what they say.
Wow, that's crazy.
78%, yeah. So, so it's real talk what we're saying here. What this tip here is real talk. This is a big one.
It's a big one.
This is the one that can make the difference. Yeah. It doesn't matter how much, effectively what we're saying, it doesn't matter how much you're making.
Yeah. Try to live below your means.
Control,
yeah. It can be over in an instant.
It doesn't mean you can't spend, but if it's unrestricted, if it's way more than, what the person is earning, it's not a good equation.
Right.
The third one is invest wisely. So billionaires typically prioritize long-term investing over short-term spending. They focus on building wealth through investment in stocks, bonds, and real estate.
Yes, that's a very interesting one because I think it sort of links into what we've just spoken about. The tendency to just buy, isn't it? I've got the money now. I'll just buy that. And it might make you feel good in the short term, but if you actually spend in longer term assets, it can set you up for life and it can set your children up. So it's very interesting. I think it's definitely something that's probably easier to do if you have a lot of more money. But I think if you have that mindset, it can help you in the long run as well. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. I think it's interesting that they put wisely, invest wisely. And I think it's interesting that they put the word wisely. And it's true because, although a lot of people talk about investments, there's also bad investments too. So it's something that, probably one needs to look into and really explore. I mean, we've seen, unfortunately, quite a, in terms of like people invested into things like crypto, and some of those have turned out to be scams, for example. Those, that's unfortunate. But at the same time, when it comes to investing, that's part of it. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. That's also part of the game.
You're right. But I think we've spoken about this off podcast. If you want us to speak about this on the podcast more, let us know. We're happy to do so. We've spoken about sort of investment strategies. There's some good information online in terms of investing and how to invest. I think crypto was classed by a lot of financial experts as being quite risky. So I think a lot of people said they made a lot of money in crypto.
Yeah, definitely heard a lot of testimonies about that. Yeah.
Initially, yeah. But also I've heard a lot of people, unfortunately, that lost a lot of money. And I think because it was so new and it was sort of classed more as sort of risky or experimental, it would have been wise to not put that much money into it. But I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, like you said, you know, wise investments is the key. A lot of people thought, this is going to make me a millionaire, and they put their whole life savings into crypto, unfortunately. And unfortunately, they lost a lot of money. Like you said, with all investments, it's never a guarantee. You know, they do say only invest what you're willing to lose. That's a good ethos to have. But yeah, wise investment, which, you know, there's no guarantees, but if you can do your due diligence, do some research, you know, if you're not too familiar with how to invest in, you know, before you jump into it, I would say try to learn more about it so that you can try to make an informed decision and make as wise a decision as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also perhaps not putting your eggs in one basket as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What did you say? Diversification is key, which is that idea of spreading, like you said, not putting all your eggs in one basket, spreading them out amongst all of the baskets. So if you have 5 baskets and 2 don't do so well, hopefully 2 do extremely well. Yeah. 1 does okay, and you're still fine. Yeah, absolutely. So that's the whole idea of diversification.
Absolutely. It's a good one. And then number 2, so going on to the last 2. So number 2, frugality matters. Common traits among millionaires is frugality. They tend to be careful with their spending, seek value in their purchases, and avoid unnecessary debt. So frugality is, so it's not cheap, which is not spending at all. Or, well, some might say not spending.
Is it trying to get value for money?
Value for money, that was it, yeah. It's more like value for money, isn't it? So perhaps it's that concept of there's first class seats, business class seats, normal seats. Maybe that person might just go for the normal ones. Is that be described as frugal?
I would say that's frugal, yeah.
That's frugal, okay, yeah. So...
yeah, and also trying to get your savings as well. So, for example, if you want to buy something and there is a discount code, using it or trying to see, can I get it for cheaper? Okay. Things of that nature. Can you negotiate? Yeah, I mean, you see it all the time with business deals. You know, a company buys another company for X amount of hundreds of millions. They're not just going to say, okay, yeah, sure, here you go. They'll negotiate, you know, down to try to get the best price. Or you see people when it comes to things like procurement, so that whole idea of purchasing things for the purpose of a business. A lot of large companies, such as retailers, they tend to have procurement departments. I think a lot of companies have procurement anyway for just materials in general. And, you know, rather than just saying, oh, we're a big company, whatever you're selling it for, or just buy it, they'll negotiate hard in order to get the best price possible. So it's the same thing, having that frugal mindset as an individual is saying, can I get this? Do I need to get this? Can I get a simpler or cheaper option? Right. Can I get some savings here? That assessment, yeah. Which is quite interesting, because when you think millionaire, you think, you know, big baller. But actually, what this list is saying is having that mindset of frugality and saying, actually, assessment, can I?
It's actually probably better. There must be different types of millionaires, because we've all seen them.
There are different types,
that they're going business class. They don't care. It's probably, to be honest, this frugal one is probably a contentious one, because I think with the frugality, I think there may be some things where we feel is really, really valuable. Right. So, for example, that flight one, that might be on my list of, okay, you know what? I only want to go business class because I like the comfortability. That's a good point. Yeah. I like the quiet. I want to be able to work use my laptop on the plane. That's a value to me. Yeah. So I'm going to pay for business class. No, that's a very good point. But maybe there might be something else that might be, you know, maybe it might be like a car. So maybe I might forego the Lamborghini Urus, for example, and I might go for maybe a Mercedes instead. Yeah. And actually, Shannon Sharp, who is former NFL athlete, and he has a couple of very popular podcasts, he actually said that he does that himself. So for him, his splurge is dogs. Okay. So I think one of his dogs cost $10,000. $10,000?
Yeah, and it got imported from another country. Yeah. What? I know, and he has multiple dogs. I think he has about 4. 4? And so you can imagine how much he spends in terms of food, vets, you know, toys, etc. Yeah, he will spend on his pets. But he said he drives, I mean, I'm sure it's not a terrible car, but he drives he said he's not really into cars. He could buy the big car, I think in America, Cadillacs are very popular. Yeah. I could buy the big Cadillac. I could buy the Lamborghini. Urus, but he said that he I don't know what car he drives, but he said that he doesn't drive a car like that. Okay. I'm sure it's a good car. I'm sure it's a, you know, good car. Yeah. But
the Porsche or something. Well,
I don't know.
No,
I'm sure
I mean, that could be one of the examples of.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, yeah. I'm sure it's a very good car, but he's saying that he doesn't splurge because there's cars that cost 200,000. He doesn't splurge on that, but when it comes to his dogs, he will splurge. So I think on many things, he's most likely frugal, and he's actually talked a lot of times about how he has a lot of discipline when it comes to finances. Okay. He has a financial manager, and they discuss how much can I spend in terms of how much can I spend this year and I'll be okay. So then he tries to live within that set framework. Okay. And then whatever he makes outside of that, he saves or invests. So that's really good. Yeah. So he has that. Good. He has a lot of the tips that we've mentioned actually. But like you said, he's not frugal across the board. Yeah. Certain things he will splurge on. Like you said, for some others people, it could be a flight. It could be their clothes. They could love handbags. So they're going to be frugal, but they're going to spend on their bag or whatever.
I like how the athletes, it seems like quite a few of the athletes these days are like up in their game in terms of the business side of things.
Well, I think they need to, considering, like you said, 78% end up broke. So I think it's out of necessity. They definitely need to. Yeah. I think it's out of necessity,
which is crazy as well, because you think the amount of money they're making, they probably don't need to, but actually they do. Because I heard like with LeBron James, for example, he's done some investments. So I heard one of his investments, for example, was investing into Liverpool Football Club. So he's got and he bought it like maybe 10 years, 15 years ago. Wow. So it's really gone up in value because they've been doing much better on the pitch as well. So
lovely.
Yeah, he's made a lot of money from there. And who's the other person? Shaq as well.
Oh, Shaquille yes, O'Neal. I've heard he's made a lot of apparently he was an early investor in, is it Apple as well?
Google, yeah.
Was it Google?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone just said, buy some, and he just, okay, I'll buy some.
Yeah, which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So he's made a lot of money there, and he's also got like franchises as well.
Right.
Quite a number of franchises, so food franchises and stuff. So yeah, he's done superbly well in business as well. And of course he's getting those checks from doing, the presenter shows and stuff. So yeah, he's done superbly well. And then the last on the list, last but not least, or the number one, is wealth whispers. So let me try and get the understanding of that. Many millionaires live modestly and don't display their wealth through extravagant lifestyles or consumption. They may drive ordinary cars and live in working class neighborhoods. Interesting. Wealth whispers. So I think they're trying to say that they kind of try to be understated. Right,
I see. Yeah. Well, I think that could have advantages from the perspective of us. We spoke about winning the lottery. A lot of the times, I think when people win the lottery and they announce it, they get a lot of hands coming out of the woodwork. People with their hands out wanting a piece. That could be a part of it. And, people asking you for money. I heard a lot of celebrities talk about that as well. A lot of family members and stuff.
But I find this one a bit odd though.
No, I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to rationalize it.
If anything, they're definitely in a big house. I don't know about that one. I'm a bit. I'm a bit.
Well, I guess biggest subjective.
Biggest subjective, yes.
Especially in the UK. So you could be living, in a house in part of London that people could drive by and think it looks modest, but actually it could be worth a heck of a lot of money.
True. Yeah, true.
It could be worth well over $1 million.
True.
So
that's a good point.
Yeah. So
because there are some houses, there are houses that are like £1 million, for example. They're quite big. Yeah. But then there are other houses that are like 30, 50, 50 million, and that's,
Yeah, they're like estates. So.
Yeah, estates kind of thing, yeah. Like if you go to like Belgravia and places like that. Really expensive houses.
Yeah, this one is an interesting one. I guess it's a combination of, being frugal, living beneath your means.
Yes. I think you're right, yeah.
Having good discipline, things of that nature. So,
and also personal preferences,
making wise investment. So, yeah, I guess it's an interesting one. That one, yeah. It's a bit it's a bit of an unexpected one, I must say. But I think that it's not a bad one, especially if you are living comfortably. So, you're not living in poverty, but you're not overdoing it, because if you're living in that house, a huge, massive mansion, you have to think the bills are going to be quite high, most likely. Yeah, true. So, you can end up spending so much money on your home. And I think a lot of millionaires, they say a lot of millionaires, of course, this is a stereotype, tend to travel. Obviously, this is not all of them. Okay. Depends on what you do. But, does it make sense to, living I mean, I guess it depends on personal preference, I guess.
Yeah. And it could be that maybe, again, that's personal preference, but it could be that other things. It might be like jewelry that might not be their thing.
Right.
Or it might be like, really expensive, I don't know, bags, handbags or whatever might not be their thing, or
it could
clothes.
Be, but also I think
lots of things.
This is just, I guess this is also a way to try to keep that money as well, because I think once you start splashing in such a manner, you have to keep earnings really high or earning more and more each year in order to keep up. So maybe this is just because I guess this is like a list of habits, isn't it? Healthy habits. So I guess in general, if you have that mentality, if you have that mentality in general, it will help you hopefully keep that money in the long run, and not feel like you need to buy the biggest, the most expensive house. You could just buy, a house that you're comfortable with, you're happy with, you and your family feel comfortable. And then I guess maybe the more money you earn, so maybe when you earn multiple millions, you can move into a larger house, a larger space, but it's still like modest within your means, if that makes sense. So maybe from that perspective.
So for everyone else it might be big, but for you it's actually modest. If you wanted to go for big, it would be something like a palace. Yeah. Because it would be a palace.
There's homes, I mean, you hear it all the time. These celebrities buying a house for 70 million, 200 million, which is exorbitant. They could I'm sure those people could find a house for 10 million. Right. Which for them might meet the definition of normal average home.
It's all
for them,
isn't it?
It's relative, but for most people that is still humongous. If you think about it from that perspective, because I think Beyonce and Jay-Z, for example, they recently bought a home in Malibu for 200 million.
200 million?
Yeah, it's the most expensive home that's been bought in California.
Wowza.
But if they could then have bought a property for 10 million and probably just bought it for cash outright, but they chose not to. Of course, they're super celebrities, so they probably want the privacy and things of that nature. But do you see what I'm trying to say? That £10 million house probably still is super luxurious. But no, they wanted extra, and so
then they got it.
Yeah, they got it. So
they're in a different league as well, isn't it?
They're in a way different league.
Did she make like probably
$1 billion? Yeah. So maybe for them that is cheap. Maybe for them
that's cheap.
Yeah. So maybe if you think about it from that perspective, from that scale, then it's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. So I think there's lots of great habits there. Is there any that you would say is the one that you like the most, or one that you think is?
I think for me, the things that people can do now, trying to be frugal. So maybe just taking a stock of what you're spending, what you're buying, what's coming in. We did a previous podcast on, the top side hustles. Is there some side hustles that you can pick up? So I'm sort of naming all of them now, taking ownership and responsibility of your work, but then also I think financial literacy, trying to learn as much as you can, and, taking every day as a day to learn more. I think those are really the key things you can start doing now that can help you see growth in the long run. How about yourself?
I think I like the one about passing on the values to the next generation. I thought that was really good. I think it's really, really important to pass on those, when you learn something, you learn some wise things, you've leveled up. It's, also important to make sure that you, pass that on to make sure the next generation also can develop as well.
Right.
So that's a good one. Then I think the other one that really resonated, I would say, I like the one about the taking responsibility, the entrepreneurial spirit one, taking responsibility. So just having that mindset that is, down to you to make it happen. It's not just about standing around. It's like we said about like the Camden Market example, where you saw the two shops side by side. One, took responsibility, leveled up the marketing, and is now got queues going around the corner. And I don't know, the other one might have done it too. I don't know, but let's assume they didn't. That could be making the difference. So they're there wondering why no one's there. It could be just something as small as that, just, doing some extra marketing or paid, or maybe they even got some, maybe they even paid like a marketing company,
right,
or something like that, paid some experts, paid some money for a bit of experts. So one set of people might feel, I'm not paying for that, I can do it myself, and then come out with something that's, not up to standard. But the other company sees it as an investment and is now, reaping the rewards. So these small little things, just, taking the responsibility, having that long game approach can really make all the difference. So I think it's a really good list. I think it's interesting. I like the frugality point as well. I think that was interesting as well. But yeah, no, I really liked it. So yeah, good list.
Okay, and get in touch with us to tell us what your favourite point was, or if there was a point on the list that was unexpected, let us know about that one as well.
Yes, and you can follow us on our Instagram page at Business Key Pod and also on TikTok at Business Key Pod. Let us know your thoughts as Libby said. And we release the episode every Wednesday, so I'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.